Welcome to Timeless Tales, where the past comes alive. Today, we're exploring the extraordinary journey of one of the most fascinating nations in history, Japan. Imagine an empire, one that began on a collection of islands and grew to dominate vast stretches of Asia. An empire forged by a powerful monarchy, driven by extraordinary exploration and relentless ambition for war and conquest. This empire, born in Japan, achieved some of the greatest triumphs in human history, but also faced some of its darkest chapters. In its prime, the Japanese Empire extended over 675,000 square kilometers, encompassing countless lives, forging partnerships, and igniting rivalries across Asia. Its influence reshaped the continent through trade, diplomacy, and war. But no empire lasts forever. So, how did a nation that once controlled so much of Asia come to see its empire unravel? What led to its rise, and what brought about its fall? To understand the answers, we must go back to the very beginning. Back to the misty forests and ancient traditions that laid the foundation for what would become a global powerhouse. This is the entire history of Japan, and it starts right now. Japan's history is as unique as its landscapes, spanning from the mist-shrouded forests of its earliest settlers to the neon-lit skylines of its modern cities. It's a tale of resilience, a nation forged in the fires of natural disasters, wars, and internal struggles, yet one that has given birth to timeless art, groundbreaking technology, and a culture that has captivated the world. Our story begins over 14,000 years ago, during the Jomon period, when small bands of hunter-gatherers roamed the islands. From there, we'll travel through the rise of agriculture in the Yayoi era, the flourishing court culture of the Heian period, and the samurai-dominated feudal age of the shogunates. We'll witness the opening of Japan to the West, its rapid industrialization, its tumultuous wars, and finally its emergence as one of the most influential nations of the modern world. Japan's story isn't just about one nation. It's a reflection of human perseverance, creativity, and the enduring spirit to adapt and thrive. It's a story that speaks to us all, regardless of where we come from. So, let's begin our journey into the past. Imagine a time when Japan was a series of isolated islands, cloaked in mystery and myth. Imagine the emergence of great leaders, the clashes of mighty armies, and the quiet revolutions of art and thought that changed the world. Settle in and let the story unfold. This is the entire history of Japan, a tale that stretches from the dawn of time to the present day. Our story begins in a time long before written history, a time when the islands of Japan were still forming, shaped by the forces of nature. Stretching back over 14,000 years, the prehistory and antiquity of Japan reveal the foundations of a nation built on innovation, resilience, and a profound connection to its natural surroundings. To understand Japan's extraordinary journey, we must first delve into the lives of its earliest inhabitants and explore the transformative periods that followed. The Jomon period, spanning roughly 14,000 BCE to 300 BCE, is one of the longest continuous cultures in human history, named for the cord-marked patterns found on their pottery. The Jomon people were among the earliest known creators of ceramics, crafting vessels over 10,000 years ago, long before pottery appeared in most other parts of the world. These early inhabitants lived in harmony with the environment, relying on the bounty of Japan's forests, rivers, and coastlines. Their diet was diverse. They hunted deer and wild boar, fished in abundant waters, and gathered nuts, berries, and roots. This sustainable way of life allowed them to settle in semi-permanent villages, often centered around pit dwellings. The Jomon were more than mere survivalists. They were artisans. Their pottery, often decorated with intricate designs, served both practical and ceremonial purposes. Clay figurines known as dog offer a glimpse into their spiritual world. These enigmatic figures, with exaggerated features, may have represented deities, ancestors, or fertility symbols. The spiritual practices of the Jomon people reflected their deep connection to nature. They viewed the world as alive with spirits, a belief that would later influence the development of Shinto, Japan's indigenous religion. By around 300 BCE, a dramatic transformation occurred, the arrival of the Yayoi culture. Originating from the Korean peninsula, the Yayoi people brought revolutionary changes to Japan. Chief among these was the introduction of rice cultivation, which would forever alter the course of Japanese history. The Yayoi people mastered wet rice farming, a labor-intensive practice that required collaboration and careful management of water resources. This shift to agriculture allowed communities to grow larger and more complex. Villages evolved into fortified settlements, with distinct social hierarchies emerging to manage resources and defend against rival groups. The Yayoi also introduced metalworking, crafting tools, weapons, and ceremonial items from bronze and iron. Bronze mirrors, bells, and swords became symbols of power and status, often used in rituals or buried with leaders to signify their authority. Japan's transformation during the Yayoi period was fueled by its interactions with neighboring cultures. Trade and migration from the Korean peninsula and China brought not only new technologies, but also ideas about governance, spirituality, and social organization. Written records from China, such as the Book of Wei, describe early Japanese societies, including the Kingdom of Yamatai, ruled by the mysterious Queen Himiko. Himiko is portrayed as a shaman queen who united rival clans through diplomacy and spiritual leadership, offering a glimpse into the emerging political systems of the time. By the 3rd century CE, Japan entered the Kofun period, named after the massive keyhole-shaped tombs built for its rulers. These monumental tombs, some over 400 meters long, are among the largest burial sites in the world, reflecting the growing power and influence of Japan's emerging elite. At the heart of this era was the Yamato clan, which began to consolidate power over much of the Japanese archipelago. The Yamato rulers claimed divine descent from the sun goddess Amaterasu, establishing a connection between their leadership and the divine, a tradition that continues in Japan's imperial family to this day. The Yamato rulers also maintained close ties with China and Korea, adopting elements of Chinese culture, such as written characters, Confucian principles, and advanced systems of governance. These influences would lay the groundwork for Japan's classical period. Throughout these early periods, Japan's spiritual beliefs were deeply intertwined with its natural environment. The concept of kami, or sacred spirits, emerged during this time, encompassing everything from deities and ancestors to the forces of nature. These beliefs formed the foundation of Shinto, Japan's indigenous religion. Shinto rituals celebrated the rhythms of agricultural life, seeking harmony with the natural world and ensuring prosperity for the community. Shrines dedicated to local kami became centers of spiritual and social life, connecting people to the divine and to each other. The prehistory and antiquity of Japan laid the foundations for a nation that would grow into one of the most dynamic and innovative cultures in the world. The artistry and spirituality of the Jomon people, the agricultural and technological advancements of the Yayoi, and the political unification of the Yamato rulers each played a vital role in shaping Japan's identity. As we move into the classical period, we will witness the flowering of Japanese culture in the Heian era, a time of artistic brilliance and philosophical depth. But these early foundations remain, echoing through Japan's history and into its modern identity. Join us in the next chapter as we explore the classical period of Japan, where the seeds of tradition planted in its early history blossom into one of the most sophisticated cultures the world has ever known. By the end of the 8th century, Japan entered a new era, one marked by artistic brilliance, spiritual exploration, and the refinement of its identity. This was the Heian period, spanning over 400 years, from 794 to 1185. It was a time when culture flourished in ways that still influence Japan today. The center of this cultural renaissance was Heian-kyo, the imperial capital. Now known as Kyoto, It was designed to reflect harmony and balance, inspired by the great Chinese capitals of the Tang Dynasty. Heian became the heart of courtly life, where poetry, literature, and ceremony defined the rhythm of the day. At the core of the Heian period was the imperial court, where aristocrats pursued beauty, intellect, and sophistication. This was a world unlike any other, one where a well-composed poem could elevate your status, and a poorly chosen word could ruin your reputation. The emperors themselves held symbolic authority, but real power often lay elsewhere. The Fujiwara clan rose to dominance by skillfully marrying their daughters into the imperial family through strategic alliances and political maneuvering. The Fujiwara effectively controlled the court, becoming the power behind the throne. However, this arrangement came at a cost. While the capital thrived, the central government's authority over the provinces weakened. Local lords, known as daimyo, began to assert their own power, setting the stage for future conflicts. The Heian period is perhaps best remembered for its cultural achievements. This was a time when art and literature reached new heights, driven by the aristocracy's obsession with elegance and refinement. At the heart of Heian culture was the art of waka poetry, short, evocative poems that captured fleeting moments and deep emotions. Every noble was expected to master the craft, and poetry competitions were common at court. The pinnacle of Heian literature came with The Tale of Genji, written by the brilliant Murasaki Shikibu, often called the world's first novel. It tells the story of Prince Genji, a man of great beauty and charm, navigating the complexities of love and politics in the imperial court. This work remains a masterpiece, offering a window into the lives, emotions, and aspirations of Heian aristocrats. Visual art also thrived. The Yamato-e painting style, characterized by its detailed depictions of nature and court life, became a hallmark of the period. Calligraphy, too, was more than a means of communication. It was an art form in itself, with flowing brushstrokes that reflected the personality of the writer. Alongside artistic refinement, the Heian period saw profound developments in spiritual life. Buddhism, which had been introduced to Japan centuries earlier, flourished under the patronage of the aristocracy. Two new schools of thought emerged during this time: Tendai, introduced by Saicho, and Shingon, brought by Kukai. Both Tendai and Shingon emphasized ritual and meditation, appealing to the spiritual needs of both the elite and the common people. Temples like Byodo Inn, with its breathtaking Phoenix Hall, symbolized the blending of Buddhist ideals with the Heian aesthetic of harmony and balance. Buddhism didn't replace native Shinto beliefs, but rather coexisted with them, creating a uniquely Japanese spiritual framework. Shrines and temples stood side by side, reflecting the interconnectedness of these traditions. But even the most beautiful eras cannot last forever. By the 12th century, the Heian court's grip on power was slipping. As the aristocracy focused on poetry and ceremony, the provinces became increasingly unruly. Wealthy landowners, or shun, gained autonomy, and local militias began to rise. The emergence of the samurai, a warrior class loyal to local lords, signaled a dramatic shift in Japanese society. These warriors would soon challenge the authority of the Fujiwara clan and the imperial court itself. By the late Heian period, two powerful clans, the Taira and the Minamoto, vied for control of Japan. Their rivalry culminated in the Genpei War, a brutal conflict that would end the Heian period and usher in the age of the samurai. The Heian period leaves behind a legacy of unparalleled beauty and sophistication. Its art, literature, and spiritual ideals continue to inspire the world. But as the court fades into history, a new force rises, a force driven by the blade and the call of battle. Join us next as we delve into the medieval era, where the samurai take center stage, and Japan is forever changed by the age of shoguns and warlords. As the Heian period faded into history, Japan entered a turbulent new era. The balance of power shifted from the elegant courts of Kyoto to the harsh realities of the battlefield. This was the medieval era, a time defined by the rise of the samurai, relentless warfare, and the emergence of feudal rule. Over the next 400 years, Japan would transform from a land of imperial unity to a fractured nation of warring states. The story begins with the Genpei War, 1180 to 1185, a brutal conflict between two powerful clans, the Taira and the Minamoto. The war ended with the Minamoto's victory, and in 1292, Minamoto no Yoritomo established the Kamakura shogunate, marking the dawn of samurai rule in Japan. The Kamakura period was a time of profound change. The emperor, once the center of power, became a symbolic figure, while real authority lay with the shogun and his samurai government. The samurai, originally local warriors, now became the backbone of Japan's political and military systems. These warriors lived by a strict code of honor, Bushido, emphasizing loyalty, discipline, and martial skill. Their dedication to their lords and their ability to lead on the battlefield made them the ultimate rulers of feudal Japan. The Kamakura shogunate faced its greatest test during the late 13th century, when the Mongol Empire, under Kublai Khan, attempted to invade Japan. In 1274, and again in 1281, massive fleets of Mongol warriors landed on Japanese shores, bringing with them advanced weaponry and tactics. Although the Japanese fought valiantly, they were outnumbered and outmatched, yet both invasions ended in disaster for the Mongols, thanks in part to devastating typhoons that wrecked their fleets. These storms became known as the kamikaze, or divine wind, and were seen as evidence of Japan's divine protection. However, the cost of defending against the Mongols drained the Kamakura shogunate's resources, weakening its grip on power. By 1333, internal unrest and the rise of new factions led to the shogunate's collapse. After the Kamakura shogunate fell, a new leader emerged, Ashikaga Takauji. He established the Ashikaga shogunate in 1336, marking the beginning of the Muromachi period. Unlike the Kamakura rulers, the Ashikaga shoguns ruled from Kyoto, restoring the city's status as Japan's cultural and political heart. The Muromachi period was an age of artistic and cultural brilliance. Zen Buddhism influenced every aspect of life, from the simplicity of rock gardens to the profound discipline of the tea ceremony. Temples like the Golden Pavilion, or Kinkakuji, became symbols of the Ashikaga shogunate's sophistication and wealth. Yet, the Ashikaga shogunate struggled to maintain control over the feudal lords, or daimyo. The provinces grew increasingly autonomous, and tensions simmered beneath the surface. In 1467, those tensions erupted into the Onin War, a decade-long conflict that devastated Kyoto and plunged Japan into chaos. The war marked the beginning of the Sengoku period, also known as the Age of Warring States. For over 100 years, Japan was a fractured land, divided among powerful daimyo who vied for control. Alliances were forged and broken, castles were built and besieged, and entire clans rose and fell in the relentless struggle for dominance. This era saw the emergence of iconic fortresses like Himeji Castle and Matsumoto Castle, designed to withstand prolonged sieges. Samurai warfare also evolved, with the introduction of firearms by Portuguese traders in the mid-16th century. These new weapons revolutionized military tactics, making battles even more deadly. Amid the chaos, three extraordinary leaders rose to prominence, each contributing to Japan's unification. Oda Nobunaga was the first, a ruthless and visionary warlord who used innovative tactics and sheer force to dominate central Japan. He broke the power of the Buddhist warrior monks and introduced firearms on a massive scale. After Nobunaga's death, his loyal general, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, continued his work. Hideyoshi unified most of Japan, and even dreamed of expanding his empire beyond the islands, launching ambitious but ultimately unsuccessful invasions of Korea. The final unifier was Tokugawa Ieyasu, who defeated his rivals at the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600. His victory established the Tokugawa shogunate, ushering in a new era of peace and stability that would last for over 250 years. Despite the relentless warfare, the medieval era was also a time of profound cultural and social change. The samurai code of Bushido became deeply entrenched, emphasizing loyalty, honor, and the art of swordsmanship. Zen Buddhism influenced not only the samurai, but also the arts. Gardens, ink paintings, and no theater reflected the aesthetic principles of simplicity and mindfulness. Meanwhile, the roles of women evolved. Samurai women, especially in earlier periods, were expected to protect their homes and families. However, as the feudal system became more rigid, their influence gradually diminished. In 1543, Portuguese traders arrived on Japan's shores, introducing firearms, new trade goods, and Christianity. Jesuit missionaries, led by figures like Francis Xavier, converted many Japanese, including some daimyo who saw alliances with Europeans as a path to power. However, the spread of Christianity also brought challenges. As it grew, it clashed with traditional Japanese beliefs, sowing seeds of future tension between foreign influences and local customs. The medieval era was a time of transformation. From the rise of the samurai to the chaos of the Sengoku period, it laid the foundation for the Japan we know today. As the Tokugawa shogunate brought peace to the land, a new chapter began, one defined by stability, culture, and isolation. Join us next as we explore the Edo period, where centuries of peace would shape Japan's identity in profound ways. The dawn of the 17th century marked a dramatic shift in Japanese history. After centuries of warfare, the country entered an era of peace and order under the leadership of Tokugawa Ieyasu. What followed was the Edo period, a remarkable 265 years of stability, isolation, and cultural flourishing. From the rise of the Tokugawa shogunate to the eventual end of feudal Japan, this era would shape the nation's identity in profound and lasting ways. The Edo period began in 1603, when Tokugawa Ieyasu was appointed shogun. After his decisive victory at the Battle of Sekigahara in 1600, this battle not only cemented Ieyasu's power, but also ended decades of civil war, allowing him to unify the nation under his rule. From his base in Edo, modern-day Tokyo, Ieyasu established a centralized feudal system that would dominate Japanese politics for over 2 centuries. This system, known as the Bakuhan structure, divided power between the Tokugawa shogunate, bakufu, and the regional lords, or daimyo. The shogunate controlled critical policies, while the daimyo maintained local governance under strict oversight. To ensure loyalty, Ieyasu implemented the sankin-kōtai system. This policy required daimyo to alternate their residence between their domains and Edo, leaving their families behind as hostages. While it drained the daimyo's resources, it also centralized power and stimulated economic activity in Edo. One of the most defining features of the Edo period was Japan's policy of isolation, known as Sakoku. Beginning in the 1630s, the Tokugawa shogunate implemented strict measures to control foreign influence. Japanese citizens were forbidden to travel abroad, and almost all foreign contact was restricted. Trade was limited to carefully monitored ports. The Dutch and Chinese were allowed to operate in Dejima, a small artificial island in Nagasaki, but only under strict regulations. Christianity, which had been introduced by European missionaries, was banned entirely after it was seen as a threat to Tokugawa authority. This isolation allowed Japan to preserve its cultural identity and maintain internal stability. However, it also limited the flow of new ideas and technologies, creating a society that evolved largely on its own terms for over 2 centuries. Life in the Edo period was defined by a rigid social structure. At the top were the samurai, who served as bureaucrats and administrators in the shogunate's hierarchy. Beneath them were the farmers, artisans, and merchants, the backbone of the economy. While samurai retained their elite status, they faced challenges in a time of peace. Without constant warfare, many struggled to adapt to administrative roles, and some even fell into poverty. Meanwhile, merchants, considered the lowest class in theory, thrived in practice, accumulating wealth through trade and commerce. In rural areas, rice farming was the foundation of the economy. Taxes were collected in rice, and a surplus was crucial for both local prosperity and the stability of the shogunate. Despite the rigid social system, the Edo period was a time of extraordinary cultural innovation. The cities of Edo, Kyoto, and Osaka became vibrant cultural hubs. where the arts flourished like never before. Kabuki theater, with its dynamic performances and elaborate costumes, captivated audiences from all walks of life. Meanwhile, ukiyo-e woodblock prints depicted scenes of urban pleasure, beautiful landscapes, iconic actors, and even satirical commentary on society. The aesthetic of the Edo period was deeply influenced by wabi-sabi, a philosophy that celebrated simplicity, impermanence, and imperfection. This can be seen in the refined tea ceremonies, ikebana, flower arranging, and Zen gardens that became popular during this time. Literature also thrived. Poets like Matsuo Basho elevated the haiku to an art form, capturing the essence of nature and human experience in just 17 syllables. Under Tokugawa rule, Japan experienced steady economic growth. Advances in agriculture, such as improved irrigation techniques, increased rice production, and supported a growing population. Urbanization flourished as towns around daimyo castles expanded into major centers of trade and industry. Merchants created networks to distribute goods like silk, ceramics, and sake, fueling a vibrant economy. While Japan remained isolated from most of the world, it selectively absorbed foreign knowledge through the Dutch. This rangaku, or Dutch learning, introduced new ideas in medicine, astronomy, and engineering, which Japanese scholars adapted to their own needs. By the early 19th century, cracks began to appear in the Tokugawa system. Famine, natural disasters, and economic inequality led to unrest among the lower classes. Samurai, many of whom had fallen into poverty, began to question the shogunate's authority. The arrival of foreign powers intensified the crisis. In 1853, Commodore Matthew Perry of the United States sailed into Edo Bay with his black ships, demanding that Japan open its ports to trade. This event marked the end of Japan's isolationist policies and exposed the shogunate's inability to respond to external threats. In 1868, after years of internal strife and foreign pressure, the Tokugawa shogunate fell. The Meiji Restoration marked the end of the Edo period and the beginning of a new chapter in Japanese history, one of modernization and global engagement. The Edo period left a profound legacy. It was an era of peace and cultural flourishing, but its rigid structures could not withstand the pressures of a changing world. As Japan entered the Meiji era, it would transform into a modern nation, forever altering its place in history. In the next chapter, we'll explore the Meiji Restoration and the rapid modernization of Japan. Join us as we continue the story of the entire history of Japan. The year 1868 marked the beginning of an era that would transform Japan beyond recognition. The Tokugawa shogunate had fallen, and the Meiji Restoration ushered in a period of rapid modernization, social upheaval, and global ambition. From feudal isolation to a modernized empire, Japan's journey through the Meiji era and beyond is one of resilience, reinvention, and profound change. But this transformation came at a cost, one that would lead the nation to both its greatest triumphs and darkest chapters. The end of the Tokugawa shogunate was set into motion in 1853, when Commodore Matthew Perry arrived in Japan with his black ships. Demanding the opening of Japanese ports to foreign trade, Perry's arrival exposed the weaknesses of the shogunate and the impossibility of maintaining isolation in an increasingly interconnected world. Internal pressures also mounted. Dissatisfied samurai, impoverished farmers, and ambitious reformers sought to dismantle the old order. By 1868, the Tokugawa shogunate was overthrown in the Boshin War, and the emperor was restored to a position of power. But this restoration was largely symbolic. Real authority lay with progressive leaders, eager to modernize Japan and secure its place among the world's great powers. The Meiji Restoration marked the end of centuries of feudal rule. The samurai class was disbanded, and a centralized government was established. Land reform abolished the daimyo's domains, and Japan transitioned to a modern nation-state under imperial rule. The leaders of the Meiji era embarked on an ambitious program of modernization, transforming nearly every aspect of Japanese society. Railroads, telegraph lines, and factories sprang up across the country, ushering in an age of industrialization. Western-style buildings replaced traditional structures in urban centers, symbolizing Japan's embrace of modernity. Education became a cornerstone of the modernization effort. The government established a compulsory schooling system, introducing subjects like science, mathematics, and foreign languages. Universities were founded, and Japanese students were sent abroad to study Western technologies and governance systems. In the military, the samurai were replaced by a modern conscripted army. Modeled on European forces, Japan adopted Western tactics, firearms, and naval technologies, transforming itself into a formidable power in just a few decades. Industrialization during the Meiji era fundamentally reshaped Japan's economy. Textile production became a leading industry, followed by shipbuilding, steel production, and manufacturing. Private companies, supported by government subsidies, drove innovation and growth. The Zaibatsu, powerful family-run conglomerates like Mitsubishi and Mitsui, emerged, dominating sectors of the economy and helping Japan compete on the global stage. By the late 19th century, Japan had transitioned from a predominantly agrarian society to an industrial powerhouse. With its newfound strength, Japan sought to expand its influence. In 1895, victory in the First Sino-Japanese War secured Taiwan as its first colony and established dominance over Korea. This marked the beginning of Japan's imperial ambitions. Japan's growing military prowess was further demonstrated in the Russo-Japanese War of 1904 to 1905. Against all odds, Japan defeated Russia, becoming the first Asian nation to triumph over a European power in modern history. This victory earned Japan international respect, but also fueled its expansionist ambitions. The Taisho period, 1912 to 1926, brought a wave of political and cultural liberalization. Known as the Taisho democracy, this era saw the rise of political parties, expanded suffrage, and a flourishing of arts and literature. Cities grew rapidly, and Western influences became more pronounced. Jazz clubs, cinemas, and modern fashion became part of urban life. Writers like Ryunosuke Akutagawa and painters of the Nihonga and Yoga styles explored new artistic expressions. However, this period of freedom was short-lived. Economic challenges, including the Great Depression, created social unrest and paved the way for militaristic ideologies to gain ground. By the 1930s, Japan had shifted toward militarism. The invasion of Manchuria in 1931 and the Second Sino-Japanese War in 1937 marked the beginning of a more aggressive foreign policy. Japan's ambitions for empire led to its entry into World War II. In 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, drawing the United States into the conflict. Over the next 4 years, Japan expanded its territory across Asia and the Pacific, but its victories were short-lived. The war culminated in the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, forcing Japan to surrender. The end of World War II marked the collapse of the Japanese Empire. Millions were left homeless, and the nation faced the daunting task of rebuilding from the ashes. After the war, Japan was occupied by Allied forces under the leadership of General Douglas MacArthur. A new constitution was adopted in 1947, renouncing war and establishing a democratic government. Despite the devastation, Japan rose rapidly. The 1950s and 60s saw the emergence of the economic miracle, driven by industries like electronics, automobiles, and steel. By the 1980s, Japan had become the world's second-largest economy, known for its innovation and efficiency. Today, Japan is a nation that seamlessly blends tradition and modernity. From its global cultural influence in anime, fashion, and cuisine, to its leadership in technology and green energy, Japan continues to shape the modern world. Yet, challenges remain. An aging population, economic stagnation, and environmental concerns test Japan's resilience. As the nation looks to the future, it draws on its rich history of perseverance and adaptability. The story of modern Japan is one of transformation, An extraordinary journey from feudal isolation to global prominence, it is a testament to the strength, creativity, and resilience of a people who have shaped their destiny time and again. In our final chapter, we'll explore Japan's role in the contemporary world and its vision for the 21st century. Join us as we conclude the entire history of Japan. The Japan we see today is the result of centuries of transformation. A nation shaped by resilience, creativity, and the determination to adapt to a rapidly changing world. As Japan entered the contemporary era after the devastation of World War II, it faced enormous challenges. Yet, through innovation, cultural influence, and an enduring spirit, Japan rose to become a global leader. In this final chapter, we explore modern Japan's journey through recovery, prosperity, and the complexities of its present-day challenges. After World War II, Japan was left in ruins. Cities like Tokyo, Osaka, and Hiroshima were devastated, and the nation faced severe food shortages and widespread poverty. Under the leadership of Allied forces, led by General Douglas MacArthur, Japan underwent a period of profound change. In 1947, a new constitution was adopted, renouncing war and establishing a democratic government. Article 9 of this constitution prohibited Japan from maintaining a military for warfare, laying the foundation for its post-war pacifism. Land reforms redistributed property from wealthy landlords to tenant farmers, helping to alleviate rural poverty. Labor rights were expanded, and new policies aimed to rebuild infrastructure and modernize industries. Despite the hardships, the Japanese people demonstrated extraordinary resilience. By the early 1950s, the nation began to recover, setting the stage for its remarkable economic transformation. From the 1950s to the 1980s, Japan experienced what is often called the economic miracle. With the support of US aid and access to global markets, Japan rebuilt its industries, focusing on sectors like manufacturing, electronics, and automobiles. Companies like Sony, Toyota, and Panasonic became symbols of Japan's ingenuity and efficiency. The introduction of the Shinkansen, or bullet train, in 1964 showcased the nation's technological advancements and connected major cities, driving economic growth. Education played a vital role in this transformation. A highly skilled and disciplined workforce became the backbone of Japan's industrial success. By the 1980s, Japan was the world's second-largest economy, known for its high-quality products and innovative technology. As Japan's economy grew, so did its cultural influence. The global fascination with Japanese culture, often referred to as Cool Japan, brought anime, manga, and video games to the forefront of popular culture. Characters like Hello Kitty, Goku, and Pikachu became global icons, while franchises like Final Fantasy and Mario defined a generation of gaming. Japanese cinema and literature also gained international acclaim. Directors like Akira Kurosawa inspired filmmakers worldwide, while Studio Ghibli's animated films touched hearts with their artistry and storytelling. Writers such as Haruki Murakami introduced modern Japanese literature to global audiences. Food became another avenue of influence. Sushi, ramen, and tempura found their way to restaurants around the world. While traditional practices like the tea ceremony and ikebana showcased the elegance of Japanese culture. Despite its success, Japan faced significant challenges in the 1990s. The bursting of the economic bubble in 1991 led to a period of stagnation known as the Lost Decade. Property values plummeted, unemployment rose, and the financial sector struggled to recover. The government introduced reforms to stabilize the economy, but the impact of the stagnation lingered. Although Japan remains a global economic power, it faces ongoing issues such as deflation and competition from emerging markets. One of Japan's most pressing issues today is its aging population. With one of the highest life expectancies in the world, nearly a third of Japan's population is over the age of 65. This demographic shift has far-reaching implications for healthcare, pensions, and the labor force. rural areas face declining populations and economic challenges. Efforts to revitalize these regions include promoting tourism, supporting local industries, and encouraging young people to return to their hometowns. In recent decades, Japan has taken a leading role in environmental sustainability. The country invests heavily in renewable energy, electric vehicles, and green technology, striving to reduce its carbon footprint and combat climate change. However, Japan's geography makes it particularly vulnerable to natural disasters. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and typhoons are a constant threat. The 2011 Great East Japan earthquake and the Fukushima nuclear disaster were stark reminders of these risks. Despite these challenges, Japan has shown remarkable resilience. Recovery efforts have strengthened infrastructure, improved disaster preparedness, and highlighted the importance of community solidarity. Japan has emerged as a vital member of the global community. As a founding member of the United Nations, it contributes to peacekeeping efforts, humanitarian aid, and international development projects. Japan's technological innovations, cultural exports, and diplomatic efforts have made it a bridge between East and West. Events like the 2020 Tokyo Olympics showcased Japan's ability to unite the world through sport and culture. Japan's story is one of constant evolution. From its feudal roots to its status as a modern global leader, the nation has overcome immense challenges while preserving its rich cultural heritage. As Japan faces the uncertainties of the 21st century, it continues to inspire the world with its resilience, creativity, and vision for the future. This concludes the entire history of Japan. Thank you for joining us on this extraordinary journey through the past and present of one of the world's most fascinating nations. Japan stands at the crossroads of history and innovation. A nation shaped by its past and defined by its ability to adapt. As we look toward the future, Japan faces complex challenges, from a shrinking population to environmental threats. Yet, it also possesses remarkable opportunities, unparalleled technological advancements, cultural influence, and a legacy of resilience. In this final chapter, we explore the future of Japan, where tradition and modernity converge to create a path forward. Japan's demographic challenges are among the most pressing issues shaping its future. With a fertility rate of only 1.3 children per woman, far below the replacement level, Japan's population is shrinking. From a peak of 127 million in 2010, it is projected to fall to around 88 million by 2060. The aging population, with nearly one-third of citizens over the age of 65, poses significant challenges. Healthcare systems are under strain, pensions are increasingly costly, and the labor force continues to shrink. This demographic shift is particularly visible in rural areas, where entire towns are being abandoned. But Japan is tackling these issues with innovation. Robots are being developed to assist the elderly, from caregiving to household chores. Policies aimed at increasing female workforce participation and supporting work-life balance are gaining traction. Additionally, selective immigration policies are being implemented to address labor shortages, a significant shift for a traditionally homogeneous society. The question remains, can Japan strike a balance between preserving its cultural identity and embracing the diversity needed to sustain its future? Despite its demographic challenges, Japan continues to lead the world in technology and innovation. Known as a pioneer in robotics, artificial intelligence, and advanced manufacturing, Japan is shaping the future with groundbreaking developments. From humanoid robots like Asimo to advanced AI systems used in healthcare and disaster response, Japan is at the forefront of technological solutions to modern problems. Smart cities, such as those being developed in Fukuoka and Tokyo, aim to create sustainable, efficient urban environments powered by renewable energy and interconnected technologies. Japan's advancements in green technology are equally remarkable. The nation is investing heavily in hydrogen fuel cells, renewable energy sources, and carbon capture technology to achieve its goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. These efforts position Japan as a global leader in the fight against climate change. Even as Japan innovates, it remains deeply connected to its cultural heritage. The preservation of traditions, from Shinto rituals to martial arts, is a cornerstone of Japanese identity. Japan's ability to blend old and new is seen in its architecture, cuisine, and art. Ancient shrines stand alongside skyscrapers in Tokyo, while traditional crafts like pottery and kimono making coexist with cutting-edge fashion and design. This harmony is not just cultural, but economic as well. Tourism, driven by Japan's rich history and vibrant cities, has become a key industry. Efforts to revitalize rural areas by promoting traditional festivals, local crafts, and ecotourism aim to create sustainable growth while preserving Japan's unique character. Japan's geographic location makes it one of the most disaster-prone countries in the world. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and typhoons are regular occurrences, exacerbated by the effects of climate change. The 2011 Great East Japan earthquake and the Fukushima nuclear disaster served as stark reminders of these vulnerabilities. However, Japan has turned these challenges into opportunities for innovation. It is a global leader in disaster preparedness, with cutting-edge early warning systems and resilient infrastructure. In response to the Fukushima disaster, Japan has invested heavily in renewable energy, transitioning away from nuclear power and toward a greener future. Japan's climate policies, including its commitment to carbon neutrality by 2050, have positioned it as a global leader in sustainability. These efforts are not just about protecting Japan, but also about inspiring other nations to follow suit. Japan's cultural influence continues to grow, making it a global ambassador of creativity and heritage. From anime and manga to fashion and cuisine, Japan's soft power reaches every corner of the world. Characters like Pikachu, Totoro, and Mario have become international icons, while filmmakers like Hayao Miyazaki and Makoto Shinkai captivate audiences with their storytelling. Japanese cuisine, from sushi to ramen, has become a staple of global dining. Through cultural exchange, Japan fosters connections that transcend borders. Programs promoting Japanese language and culture abroad help build mutual understanding, ensuring that its traditions remain relevant in a rapidly changing world. Japan's influence extends beyond culture and technology. As a founding member of the United Nations, it plays a crucial role in global diplomacy, peacekeeping, and humanitarian efforts. Japan's contributions to disaster relief, international development, and environmental sustainability showcase its commitment to building a better world. Its partnerships with neighboring countries in Asia, particularly through initiatives like the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, strengthen regional stability and economic growth. Japan's emphasis on peace, cooperation, and innovation positions it as a bridge between East and West, a role that will be increasingly important in the 21st century. Japan's future lies in its ability to adapt while staying true to its identity. Investments in education, technology, and sustainable development will shape the next generation of leaders, innovators, and creators. Collaboration will also be key. By partnering with other nations to tackle global challenges, Japan can continue to lead in areas like climate action, technological innovation, and cultural exchange. As Japan moves forward, it carries with it the lessons of its past, a history of resilience, creativity, and transformation. Japan's journey through history is one of continuous reinvention. From its ancient roots to its modern achievements, the nation stands as a testament to the power of resilience and innovation. As we conclude the entire history of Japan, we see a nation poised to navigate the complexities of the future with strength and determination. Thank you for joining us on this extraordinary journey. The story of Japan is far from over. It is a living narrative that continues to inspire the world. As we conclude our journey through the entire history of Japan, we find ourselves at a moment of reflection. Japan's story is not just one of the past. It is a living legacy, a narrative that continues to evolve. From ancient traditions to modern innovations, Japan's influence stretches far beyond its borders. In this final chapter, we reflect on the lessons of its history and explore how its enduring spirit shapes the aspirations of a nation moving forward. Throughout its history, Japan has left a profound mark on the world. From the intricate art of the Heian period to the precision engineering of the modern era, Japan's contributions have shaped global culture, technology, and thought. The principles of wabi-sabi, the elegance of traditional Japanese design, and the discipline of Bushido have inspired generations worldwide. Japan's ability to blend innovation with tradition continues to offer a model for balance and harmony. Japan's history is a testament to resilience, from rebuilding after World War II to recovering from natural disasters like the 2011 Great East Japan earthquake. The nation has consistently shown the strength to rise from adversity. These experiences have taught Japan the importance of unity, preparation, and adaptability. The world looks to Japan as a leader in disaster management, environmental sustainability, and technological innovation. Japan's cultural and ethical values, rooted in harmony and respect, continue to resonate globally. Practices like the tea ceremony reflect an appreciation for simplicity and mindfulness, while festivals and rituals preserve a sense of community and connection. On the global stage, Japan's emphasis on diplomacy and collaboration sets an example of peaceful leadership. Its role as a mediator and cultural bridge highlights the importance of mutual respect and understanding in a divided world. Looking ahead, Japan aspires to lead in addressing the challenges of the 21st century. From combating climate change to advancing technological frontiers, Japan's goals are ambitious, yet grounded in its rich history of innovation. Education will play a critical role in shaping Japan's future. By fostering creativity, critical thinking, and global awareness, Japan aims to empower its next generation to solve the world's most pressing problems. Through partnerships and collaboration, Japan seeks to create a more sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous future, not just for itself, but for the world. Japan's greatest legacy is its ability to evolve while remaining true to its identity. It is a nation that has adapted to monumental change, yet its traditions endure, offering a sense of continuity and purpose. The lessons of Japan's history remind us that progress is not about forgetting the past, but building upon it. In its rituals, innovations, and aspirations, Japan's living legacy continues to inspire the world. The story of Japan is one of resilience, creativity, and transformation. From the ancient myths of its creation to its role as a modern global leader, Japan's journey is a reflection of the human spirit's capacity for growth and renewal. Thank you for joining us on this extraordinary journey through the entire history of Japan. While our exploration ends here, the story of Japan continues, an endless tale of inspiration, challenges, and triumphs that echoes across time. Thank you for joining us on this extraordinary journey through the entire history of Japan. From its ancient myths and warrior traditions to its rise as a modern global leader, Japan's story is one of resilience, transformation, and profound inspiration. But before we close, allow me to introduce myself. I am Phileas Kronos, your guide through the corridors of history. My passion is to uncover the stories that shape our world, to journey across time, and bring the past to life. As an adventurer, storyteller, and time traveler, I've dedicated my life to exploring the wonders of history, sharing its lessons, its triumphs, and its truths. I am named after the Greek god of time, Kronos, and inspired by the adventurous spirit of Jules Verne's great characters. As Phileas Kronos, I've traveled the ages, unraveling mysteries and revealing the stories that connect us to the past. My goal is to make history more than just a collection of dates and events, to make it come alive, to inspire curiosity, and to show how the lessons of the past can guide us toward a better future. Today, we've uncovered the depth of Japan's history, a nation shaped by its struggles, defined by its creativity, and inspired by its enduring traditions. It's a story not just of one country, but of the human spirit's capacity to adapt, innovate, and thrive. From the first hunter-gatherers of the Jomon period to the dazzling skylines of the 21st century, Japan has shown us that history is alive in every moment, every tradition, and every innovation. If you've enjoyed this journey, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Timeless Tales. Together, we'll continue to explore the great stories of our past, stories that reveal who we are and who we can become. And if you'd like to see more of these adventures, let me, Phileas Kronos, guide you through time's most extraordinary tales. Join me as we uncover the mysteries of history, one chapter at a time. Until our next journey, I remain your companion through time, Phileas Kronos. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next chapter of history.